What's up, friends? It's that time again. It's Spicy Monday time. And since the last one did so well, and we just had a conference with a bunch of drama, I figured we would continue the theme about talking about the dark underbelly of MSP conferences. Dun dun dun. But today, what I wanted to talk about was the oversaturation of vendor supplied bullshit and why, for the best intended reasons, we accidentally ended up getting ourselves in a situation where most people will skip out on their sponsored dinner. So join me as we get spicy. Figured as I go through this video in my very best Hackerman outfit here, I would highlight some of the amazing glasses I have gotten from vendors. Currently, I'm sporting a 2023 Encore pair of glasses here. Yes, yeah, thank you. So I want you to picture it's 2014. You are attending one of the few medium-sized conferences that exist. It's probably run by a sponsored peer group, and because this is 2014 and we haven't all decided that everything has to happen in Orlando, you're in Chicago. So you're at this modest-sized conference with maybe 200 attendees in Chicago, and there's a small group of MSPs that are getting taken out by one of the vendors to the Capitol Grill. And there's sort of hushed tones passing through the conference. Like, who are they? How come they get to go? Like, they're going. I heard they're going to the back room of Capitol Grill. Did you see that? Like, that's Bob over there with them. How do they get to do that? I bring this up because that's how it used to be at these events, especially at the smaller events. But honestly, it was happening even at the big events at that time. It was pretty rare to have vendors invest any of their money into doing anything with the MSPs outside of the event proper itself. And that changed pretty wildly over the last 10 years. I think for the best reasons, well, mostly for the best reasons. But it has gotten us to a point now where we're sort of in this like post-vendor sponsorship wasteland. And things have kind of gotten a little effed up. So back at that time, there was an expectation that you were really clearly attending two styles of conference, and the conference would be very forward at the front with which kind it was. There was the pitch conference, which was typically hosted by the individual vendor. Going back in that timeline, that might have been IT Nation or Robin Robbins, like something where it was very clear you will learn here, but there is an agenda, and the agenda is to drive you into engaging in the platform hosting the conference. And then the other conference, typically hosted by your handful of peer groups at that time, and those really were more like BNI on steroids. And there was pitching going on, but the idea was more to teach and elevate. And the world was mostly happy, and we were all okay with it. There would be some sort of sponsorship hall that had booths. Those booths might have halfway decent swag. Thank you, Sonic Wall, for the glasses for this segment. And yeah, you'd get like the occasional vendor that was sponsoring a talk, but everything was very above board and communicated. You were made clear from the beginning you're being sold to, and or not. And we were all kind of cool with this. It bred a sense of exclusivity that you wanted to be that MSP that got to go to the Capitol Grill. You wanted to be part of that secret cabal of people who knew each other. As I like to call it now, the circle of friends. And if you weren't in it, you didn't get to go to these things. And that's just how it was. And so we would end up, I remember being an MSP at that time, we would very frequently end up having to either go out to dinner ourselves, me and the owner of our company, or we would join the plebs in whatever the event dining hall was and eat the buffet food. And that's how it was. If you weren't on the list, you didn't get to go have the fun after dinner experience, and everything was fine in the world. The thing is, it was decided that everything was not fine in the world. Because as I pointed out, you had a large portion of the event that were the plebs that had to go do their own thing. And so what I saw a lot of was the vendors would sit and eat by themselves with people they knew, and the MSPs would sit and eat by themselves with people they knew, if they knew anybody, which was far less common at that point. Because even though, and this is a recurring theme in a lot of my videos, even though the internet has existed for a long time, a lot of these folks, this is still the case. A lot of these people don't know who the other MSPs are in the room. Yeah, online forums and communities have expanded. We have, Tech Tribe, MSP Geek, MSPs R Us, RMSP. We have some of the newer peer group stuff, Tech Degenerates, Empath, yada, yada. But largely, those only service a very small corner of the market. So it was very, very commonplace, and probably still is, where you could attend an event as an MSP and genuinely not know anybody else to go out to eat with. So somebody took a look at the room at that happening, and they said, I'm going to fix this. And started driving this behavior that I think started for good reasons, which was there are vendors in this room that aren't naturally engaging with their MSPs, don't know how to do that. They don't know how to set up a dinner. They don't know how to schedule an event. Whether or not they have the money to do it, they just don't have the expertise or the know-how. And there's a lot of MSPs in this room who just don't know anybody. They don't have any secret friends. None of their friends is a secret angel investor. They don't know the big fancy MSP or vendor that can get them into shit. So let's give everybody a taste of that experience. Let's give everybody the opportunity to feel like they matter, they belong, and they're part of something secret and special. Here's the problem with exclusivity. Unless whatever the product category is has innate intrinsic value that we all agree makes that product, regardless of its availability, something that is extremely exclusive. As soon as you remove the principle of scarcity, it's not exclusive anymore. You want an example? Look at what we've done with diamonds. Diamonds are a rock that are relatively common. They are neither precious nor are they uncommon. If you want a real precious stone, look at something like a sapphire. There are not a lot of sapphires. So with diamonds, we took something, it's a nice rock. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad rock, but we've taken a relatively common, nice rock, and we've made it very, very hard to get. De Beers has done that. Therefore, they're exclusive. Well, the thing is, in the MSP space, we're not diamonds. Sorry. And much like the great, powerful, and amazing Miley Cyrus said, I can buy myself flowers. I can buy myself diamonds. Like, I can go take myself out to dinner. I can buy my own cool glasses. I can buy my own vendor swag. I can buy my own ticket to the Disney parks. Like, I can do this stuff on my own. And as soon as you remove that element of exclusivity and scarcity, as soon as you remove that fear that I have something to lose by not participating, I'm not gonna participate. And we end up in this situation where we have MSPs that are skedaddling on these dinners, and we have vendors that are sad and abandoned, and I'm sure tiny violin music playing as they sit there alone in the restaurant sobbing into the tables that no one showed up. And it sucks for everybody because we artificially removed what we had already artificially put in there, which was this bullshit sense of exclusivity. I realize as I've been forgetting to tell you whose glasses I'm wearing. I'm currently sporting a 2023-24 Cyber QP look. See them for all of your big cat needs. So continuing on in this whole thing about, well, who cares about the exclusivity of these dinners? So you end up in a situation that we've slowly ended up in now, where because every single event we attend is trying to outdo the previous event, or at least keep pace in terms of extravagance, parties, swag, and vendor dinners, it's become normal. And because it is now normal, it's lost its exclusivity. And so when we get an event like the last one, and I'm not ragging on the event, when we get an event like the last one where they try to set something up where every single attendee is going to get a assigned vendor sponsored dinner, with that, remember the original idea that everybody should get an opportunity to get wined and dined somewhere nice, to have a taste of that life that many of us could only dream of 10 years ago. Well, everybody's bored with it. And what ended up happening is a lot of MSPs just dipped out of their events entirely, because guess what they wanted to do? They didn't want to go to some restaurant with a bunch of random vendors. They wanted to eat with their friends and just do whatever they wanted to do. And so you're left with a bunch of vendors that have one or two people showing up who look like clowns because of it. It's not the vendor's fault, but it is honestly pretty funny. Sorry if that happened. Sorry if that happened to you, vendors. I know I'm not really one to throw stones. If Helped had been sponsoring a dinner, nobody would have showed up either, but it's still funny. We end up in this situation, and my whole thing is I don't understand why. I don't understand why we did this to ourselves. Who was all this for? Who was asking for this? And I think that's the part that makes me the most angry and spicy about this, is no one is actually asking for this. If I do a survey of MSPs and I say, how many of you would like to go eat somewhere nice? Sure, plenty of people are going to raise their hands. But if I finish that up with, how many of you want to go out to eat dinner at an educational conference and be pitched to by a vendor you can't control, all those hands are going to go down. So the MSPs aren't asking for it. And if I flip that around and I say, hey, vendors, how many of you want to have to pay for a dinner for a bunch of bored people who are tired at the end of the day at an education-focused conference, and you're going to be able to scrape a list from it? Hey, because we all know Lunch and Learns are the top place to pitch a solution, except it's lunch and dinner and learn. I don't really think a lot of vendors are asking for that. Why are we doing this? I don't understand, and I don't think anybody understood. And I think that that's why it didn't go the way it was planned. And if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, Dean, I'll tell you who wanted to do it. It was the event organizer's fault. While we did talk about in the last one that every conference has to be run like a business, I don't think Right a Boom is sitting around like maniacally swimming through, their cash room like Scrooge McDuck that they made from sponsoring these vendor dinners. I think Right a Boom had the same idea as everyone else. This is something everybody probably wants. It'll be a nice thing to do for everybody. But the thing is, nobody ended up wanting it, and it didn't end up being a nice thing for most people. Let's just stop doing this, everybody. You need to go back to making this stuff exclusive. I hate to say it, but at IT Nation, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, whenever they first started booking out the parks, like, Arnie did the thing first, guys, and it was fun and it was cool. It's still fun and cool. I expect every year at IT Nation Connect, they're going to rent out some sort of theme park for me. And I was very aggravated the year they didn't. We need the hurricane. Well, I want to die on a roller coaster in a thunderstorm. Make it happen. My point is, they did it first. That doesn't mean everyone else now needs to do that. Like, does everyone understand that that's not the freaking standard? I'm okay if, like, Kaseya or one of Kaseya's vehicles wants to do it as well, because they're huge as well. Fair enough. But, like, the rest of you who aren't, like, buying stadiums and hemorrhaging cash on stupid shit, stop. We don't need it. No one's asking for it. Every event doesn't need to have this massive outing where we do some sort of spectacular, crazy bullshit. It's not necessary. And I would prove that point by, let's take a look at ChannelCon, CompTIA ChannelCon last year. So it was in Vegas at a halfway decent hotel. And there were nights where they had things to do, but really there was only one night. And all they really did on that one night was they rented out an outdoor nightclub and just threw a giant food and drinks party. And what was interesting about it was probably the most well-attended and well-engaged with food and drinks party I've seen in the last decade at a conference. They didn't rent out an amusement park. They didn't do any crazy bullshit. It was just, here's a nightclub, open bar, open food, have a good time. It was the only night I had to be somewhere special for the conference. Otherwise, I could do what I wanted to do. And in that case, it was doing stuff with at that time, the vendor I was working with, and our partners, and we had a good time, and we didn't force anybody. There was no mandatory, you got to do it. It was more, hey, we're going to be here paying for stuff. If you want to show up, show up. And guess what? People showed up, and it was fun. And it was the people who wanted to be there who had fun with us. So everybody had a good time. Can we please go back to that, everybody? I don't understand why we stopped. I've yet to meet a person who's like, I wanted this sort of post, conference wasteland. This is what I wanted. I'm getting my ROI. No one wants this. Everybody, cut it out. Enough. I know all of this has been a very first world topic to be spicy about. And I'm not that spicy about it because at the end of the day, having been an MSP the whole time, I guess technically I'm winning. I get free food out of all of it. I'm just pointing out that if this trend continues, we're going to end up at a point where nothing about these events is special anymore. And so everybody will just stop attending. And then there will be no events and it will collapse. And the whole system will break down for a few years until it rebuilds again. If y'all don't want to go through that, then we all need to work a little bit more intelligently with all this event fatigue, all this reward fatigue. So I need to calm down a little bit. If you're going to running, sponsoring, or otherwise attending an education-focused conference, it needs to be about that. And you can't blur the line between people are here to learn and not be sold to, and there are mandatory dinners that you have to go to be sold to. Just clearly that doesn't fit. And I think in this case, I don't think anybody was trying to do anything that was, misleading. There was no bait and switch. I think it all came from the best possible places and it just didn't land well. But that's why it didn't land well. Now we know that. On the flip side, if I'm going to an event whose purpose it is to pitch me on their platform, I should know that when I'm attending. And I don't really think it's appropriate to be bitching and complaining about it at that point. If I go to a producers club meeting from Robin Robbins, and I'm going to have to sit there and listen to the, pitch deck for the entire conference about her services and all the people who've done well in it. That's the point of the freaking event. So to get mad at that afterwards and be like, oh, well, they're so pitchy at that conference. Of course they're pitchy at that conference. It's a fucking MLM conference. What do you expect? That's the whole point of the damn thing. And I do know a lot of people who have been really successful on Robin Robbins, just as many as who haven't, in case you're listening to this and you think I'm picking a side. I don't have a side. But I just think it's important to just, as I said in the last video, let's pull our heads out of our asses on this subject. Way too much money is being spent on these events by everybody. This is very, very, very precious profit dollars that we could be investing back into our businesses. We could be hiring more staff. We could be paying our existing staff better. We could be investing in better tools and processes. We could be spending directly in actual marketing so we can reach MSPs that aren't in the same 70% that attend every fucking event. Like, are you guys stupid? We could be doing so many better things with this money, but we're just hemorrhaging it over and over again on this extravagance that isn't actually extravagant anymore because they do it at every event. We all look like a bunch of, those videos you see in like Dubai where everybody looks bored, where the police force has Lambos. That's what we look like now. Like, we are just like that, except I don't think we're rolling in Dubai money here. Everybody, you just need to calm down with all of this. You go to an event to learn, you go to an event to be sold to. Let's just start owning that again. Let's be honest about what we're doing. Let's bring back some of that sense of exclusivity. Let's stop hemorrhaging so much money on nonsense. Have a great Monday. Stay spicy.